Today's video is going to be on ambient lighting in the Fisker Ocean. The Fisker Ocean's ambient lighting only comes in white, which is a little disappointing since many cars have multiple colors that can be changed in their settings. However, it only appears that white is available at this point. Not sure if it's a software issue or the LEDs themselves. But in any case, I've worked for the last 2 months on trying to find a solution to getting color for ambient lighting. And I found 2 different ways of doing this, using tubing and also these translucent plastic. And there's certain areas of the ambient lights where the tubing is effective and other areas where this plastic is better to use. And one thing I want to mention is that this tubing is kind of ironic that this is a fuel line or gas line. So it is a rubber tubing that I cut down along the edge, and I'm going to be installing this in the ambient lighting on the dashboard and also in the areas where the under console area is. And the lighting uses an LED at one point, and the LED light is distributed along the dash and under console areas by what's called the light pipe. It's a clear plastic tube that goes from the LED and to where it's going to be going. So some of them are pretty short, like say 6-7 inches long, but there's a really long one on the right side of the dashboard that's about 26 inches long. So I'm going to be wrapping this tubing around the light pipe, and by cutting this tubing I can wrap it around it. But you have to be very careful with the light pipe. It is thin plastic, so you don't want to break it. And there are other areas that I cannot use the tubing, and I have to use this translucent plastic. Those areas are the door panels and also parts on the underside of the console. So I'm going to be showing you how to do this in the video. I have blue and I have red that I purchased. For this video, I'm going to be installing the red. It takes a long time to install this, so I only had time to document how to install the red, but I do have some sections of the video later on that you'll see what the blue looks like too. And I also found online that there are other colors that you can purchase. I found yellow, I found pink, I found purple, and I've also found, I think, a green. And so there's other colors besides red and blue. Red and blue tends to be the most popular colors I've seen for ambient lighting, so I figured that's a good place to start. And I think I like the red ambient lighting, and I'll show you what all this looks like at the end of the video once it's installed. So right now I'm going to show you the process of getting these installed inside the Fisker Ocean. Let's get started. Here are the tools and items we're going to be needing for the project today. Definitely recommend a plastic pry bar for loosening any of the trim and for installing any of the pieces that we're going to be using today. Next, a measuring tape, ruler, a craft knife or utility knife with a sharp edge, scissors. This is gaffer tape. I would recommend this for the installation today instead of duct tape. Duct tape will leave a residue onto the surface, and we do not want that. Gaffer tape will stick on very cleanly and is good for this situation. And we also are going to need a hot glue gun. This is optional, but I highly recommend it for the end caps, and I'll explain that later in the video. For the left side of the dashboard, we're going to use a piece of tubing that is about 9 inches long, a little bit longer, say 9 1/8 inches long. Then I use the craft knife, utility knife, and I'll split this opening along the entire length, as you can see here. Then I am going to attach a round cutout of the tubing onto the end. I'm going to use some hot glue from a hot glue gun and attach that. All right, so here's the end of the tube. I am going to add some hot glue to the end of it. And then put this piece of tubing right on the end. Any extra glue you can peel off. And this is supposed to help with the light bleed at the end of the light tube. And let this dry, and you should be able to then install it in the car. All right, so the left part of the dashboard has a trim piece right here. You just pop it off, and it just has several clips, 4 clips holding it in place. Underneath you see the light pipe. The LED starts on this end, and then the light goes all the way to this end. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place the tubing over the light pipe, and that's why we made the split in here. So what I can do is actually start at this end, and I can start routing the tube like this, and it should go all along here. Just be careful, there are little plastic clips here holding it in place. You may need to route it around those. Just kind of wiggle it, and it'll go around the corners. And keep pushing it until it meets the end. Keep going. All right. And now you can see the tubing goes all the way from this side. Let me show you a little close up here. Right where the LED starts, and then goes wrapping around the light pipe to the end. And you can see why we have this little cap here, because otherwise the white light would be shooting straight out this way. Then take the trim piece, place it over, and snap it in. And you're done with the left side. We are on the right side of the dashboard. This top piece here is the piece that we're going to lift up. And I have about a 26-inch of the tubing that I cut along the length of it so that there's a slit there, just like I did on the left side of the dashboard. So what we need to do is gently lift up this entire section. There's clips along here, so just pull up on it gently, and then you'll have access to this piece. Unfortunately, the screen locks this in, so we have to be very careful. You can only lift it about an inch or two to get some clearance underneath for access. The next thing we need to do is that there is a light bar underneath that has several clips holding it in. And you have to pinch the clip that is on the cover here, and then gently pull the light bar out. And then there's 3 of them that you'll need to do that with. and then you'll have access to the light bar. I'll pinch down here to get the last one out. All right, and I have it free now. The LED starts at this end and goes all the way to this end. So what we'll do is, just like the other side, I made a little end cap here to block the white light that will escape out the end. And then this will be the end piece here. Then I'm going to insert this so it goes all the way across so it meets the LED on this side. So let me get that started. It may be easier to get it going towards this end so that when you need to push this as far as it will go, you won't get as much friction. So let me start that on this side. Insert the tubing over the light pipe, and you got to be super gentle. We do not want to break the light pipe. All right, I got it started. And now I'm going to push it down and keep on pressing it into the light pipe as I go. It's going to be a little difficult because you have to get around those clips. So you may have to lift it a little bit and shimmy it over. So just be super careful with that. Keep on pushing it until it goes as far as it can go, all the way to this side. And I've hit the end, and now I'll start covering the light pipe on this side. All right, at this point we have the whole light pipe is covered with the red tubing, and we will snap these clips back into place here. And then any excess here can be just folded underneath. So you can have a little bit extra on this side and it's not a big deal. I am going to not fully press this down because I want to do the center now. And the center, it's one big piece. So the center strip I'm going to use, I'm going to pull up that end and insert a shorter piece. So let's get on that side now. We have now inserted the tubing on the light pipe on the section to the right of the dashboard. Let's swing around to just left of the big screen, and this trim piece is connected. It's one big trim piece that goes across. So you can lift it up using the plastic pry bar or using your fingers, gently lift it. There's several clips holding it in place. You're only going to get about a ½ inch to an inch of movement here since the screen is blocking this. So you have to be very careful. And then at this point, you can reach under and there's a light pipe and there's a clip right here. And then squeeze the end of the clip and then the light pipe will come out and you'll have access to it. So you can see the clear light pipe right here. Unfortunately, there's not a whole lot of room on the side, so this is actually a little bit tougher than the right side of the dashboard. But what we're going to do is we're going to use about an 8.5 long piece of the tubing. And instead of the end where I hot glue gun a piece on here, I'm going to use about an inch of extra to just bend and fold over here. This is an alternate way of doing it instead of using the hot glue gun. So what we will do is insert this so that this end here goes all the way to the LED on this side. And then it will wrap across the light bar, and then you can insert, since this has a slit, insert it over the light bar, and then it will be installed. And then at that point you can push the light bar back into the clips and you'll be done. So the tough part of this one is that you want to get fairly close to this end because you want to push it all the way over to the right as far as possible because we don't want any light to bleed through. So I am going to start this end here and then slowly push it. There's going to be a little bit of a clip here, and I will gently push it, and eventually it will go all the way across. Mind you, the light pipe is thin plastic. You do not want to bend it too far or it will break. So I am doing my utmost to make sure I don't break it. All right, so we're sliding it over, and at this point it is all the way to the LED. So that is good. So now I will push the tubing over the light bar, and now you can see it is covering all of the light bar. And like I mentioned before, you don't want to have any of the white light at the end of the bar pushing out because you'll see white and not the color of the tubing. So what we're going to do is we're going to bend this at the end, and then that will keep the light red in this case. So at this point, the tubing is on, so I can put the light bar back into its clips and then push the tubing up, and then it is all fixed. All right, so this is done. Now we can gently push this down and this will click into place. And then also on this side, I'm gonna make sure that I press this down, and then this top trim on the dashboard will click into place and we'll be, and at that point, the installation is done for the dashboard. For the center console area, we're going to use the same tubing again, and roughly a 11-inch section here, slightly over. I would say this is 11¼ inches long. Then you're going to slice an opening along the entire length of it so that we can slide it over the light pipe. For the center console light pipe, we're going to pull out this trim piece here. Doesn't have to be all the way out. You just have to loosen it, pull it out from the clips, and you'll have about 1 inch or so of clearance on each side. And then underneath is where the light pipe is. And we're going to slide the tubing over the light pipe, and it will go from the start of the light pipe all the way to the end over there. All right, we have the light pipe here, as you can see, and we have the tubing with the split down the center. And what we're going to do is you can pull on the light pipe a little bit and disconnect it from the clips that are holding it in place. You can then slide the tubing over it, like so. and then try to open it up best you can, and then insert it along the length of this. And this is going to go all the way in. I'm going to move this right here. And just be careful not to bend the light pipe too much. You don't want it to break. So we'll get the tubing over the light pipe. Keep on inserting it, and eventually you'll get to the end. Another thing handy to use is a plastic pry bar. Let me insert that in here. There we go. I gotta just push it underneath. There we go. All right, so we have the whole light bar covered in the red tubing. Now we just carefully put it back into place and then slide the clips into their openings. And then what you'll do is once that is in place, you can snap this trim plate back on. Pull out the trim here and let the light pipe hang down a little bit, and do the same thing on the passenger side. There are two more areas that need to have color for the LEDs on the ambient lights. What I purchased is two different colors since I have the red and blue so far, and this is basically a colored film that you can use. I'm going to try it with single layer, double layer, triple layer, see how the color works inside the car when the lights are on. And for these two rolls, they're going to be installed in the areas that are facing downwards that have a single LED. There's also on the door handles a very thin light pipe that I couldn't get to work with the tubing that I purchased. It just doesn't fit in that area. So what I'm going to try to do is use this plastic to cover those sections and see how they work. And I'm going to probably need to cut a length of this, probably about ½ inch wide along the entire length of this roll. And for the areas that are going to be the single LEDs, I'm just going to cut like a 1 inch by 1 inch square and then use gaffer tape to hold it in place. And gaffer tape is really handy because it doesn't leave any residue on the plastic in the car. If you had duct tape does do that. And I recommend using gaffer tape instead of duct tape whenever you're installing something in the car, so it just doesn't damage the surface. So let's get on with this part. The door handle LED starts roughly around here and continues all the way to this corner, and it's inside the trim, and you can see a little bit reflecting on my hand. And like I mentioned, it is a very thin light pipe and I cannot get my tubing around it. So I'm going to try to see if I can get the plastic to go over this. So for example, I will try to insert this here, and it's hard to do right now in front of the camera, but I'm going to play around with it and see how big a section of the plastic it will take. I may need to make this thinner. Right now it's about a third of an inch wide. I may need to make it half this thickness. So we'll see how this works and I'll show you what I find out. All right, from playing around with this, I find out I can get the end of the film about this area here where the light pipe ends, and this area here where the two pieces of the trim meet is about as far as it goes. Even though there is light pipe underneath this section, it really doesn't show through. So I'm going to trim this about up to here. So about this length, I'm going to try to install. Here we go with a about 10-inch long piece, and it's about 3/4 of an inch wide. Let's see how this one works. All right, and one of my favorite tools is a plastic pry bar for doing any modifications on the inside of the car. What I'm going to do is use this to help bend the plastic around the light pipe so that it goes into the edge. So right now it's tucked into the top crease of the light pipe, and now I'm going to bend the plastic so it fits into the lower crease. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to try to do this at an angle. Let's try this. If I do the leading edge and tuck that underneath, let's see how this works. Or maybe tuck the lower half in first. Let me try that. One of the problems I see is that the bottom of the light pipe has clips every so often on here, so I can't slide the plastic along the lower part of the light bar. See, it just hits every once in a while. It'll hit one of the sections of the clips. So I'll try to do my best to fold this around and slide it along. All right, I think I got it. So I got the top part and the lower part into the grooves, and I'm sliding it along. Just keep sliding it. And tucking it underneath. It is very tricky to do. All right, so I got the piece of plastic inserted here in between the top of the light bar and underneath the light bar, folded like a tube. And you have to be very careful doing this because there are some clips on the bottom of the light bar that makes it difficult to insert the plastic. But if you're very careful, you can get it to connect on both sides of the openings on the light pipe. And then, like I mentioned, from this area to this area is what you want to do. Roughly 10 inches long and 3/4 inches wide piece will work on this side. For the passenger side, it's just like the driver's side. You need to wedge the plastic between the top and the bottom parts of the light bar, folding it over, and then pushing it along here. And let's see if we can get that to work. I get it as far over as we can. We want to get it all the way over here where the light pipe starts and to here where it ends. So I think that's about as far over as it's going to go. And now I need to tuck it. All right, sometimes it doesn't seem like it wants to go in all the way, but it still works fine as far as the handle goes. It may show a little bit on this side with the plastic, but you can try to get it in and even along the inside of this handle area best you can. And here I'll place the plastic down. I'm going to use 2 pieces for my test, then place the sections of gaffer tape around it. And now it can be attached to the car. Though technically not an ambient light, there is a light in the lower door panel storage area. And if you want to be consistent and have all the lights the same color, you can also do that here. You can put the colored plastic with the gaffer tape over it, and by the time you put other stuff in there, you're probably not even going to notice it. This will blend right in. And you can do this for both the passenger and the driver sides. Here's the driver's side. Sitting in the driver's seat, if you look under the center console here on the dash, there is a light back there. Ah, there it is. And that is another light that we're going to use for the ambient lighting. And I'm going to cover it with the plastic, in this case red, and with the gaffer tape. All right, as easy as that. One nice thing is that this area is not very visible, and the gaffer tape being black blends in with the black plastic back here. So you're not really going to notice it. On the plus side, it's easy to change out the color because you just take off the gaffer tape and change the plastic. In my example, I also have blue. And the rear doors, you can also add the plastic along here on both of the rear handles so that they match the front doors. And the last thing I need to do is the light that's right under the center console area here. That's where I'm going to use the gaffer tape and the square pieces of plastic. So let me set that up. Here is the plastic. And I'm just going to line it up over the LED. And once you got that done, just press the gaffer tape down. It will stay in place. Let me turn the light on and show you how it works. And as you can see, there is a red light shining. So that's it for the interior lights that I want to modify. Now I'm going to show you how they look at night. And here we have the Fisker Ocean with the ambient lighting installed. Let's open it up and check it out. On the door panel, we see the red light right there. On the left side of the dashboard, we have the next section. Then on the center, and then on the far right-hand side of the dashboard, the passenger side, and also we have underneath the center console here and underneath the screen. If you look inside the door panels in the lower section, I'll remove those, and there's also a light in there too. Let me bring it around and show you the rear. The rear doors also have the ambient lighting, and also under the rear of the center console. So let me close the doors. I am going to turn off the lights here. Here we have a view of the dashboard area. You can see it from the right to the center, and then also to the left of the steering wheel. We can see the door panels, and also the lower door pocket area. In the rear, you can see the door panels, and also below the center console on the rear. If I go up by the front, we can see the lower center console and also underneath the screen. So altogether, we have 3 dashboard lights that we covered. We have 1 under the screen, 2 under the center console front, 1 on the center console rear, and then there are 4 door panels and also 2 of the lower pockets of the front doors. This is a summary of what I did today. I have the colored plastic that I used for the door panels. So I have 4 of those here. I have 4 pieces for the door lights and also 2 for the center console, front and rear. I have the tubing for the right side of the dashboard, which is the longest. The next 2 are for the underside of the center console. And the smallest 2 are for the center and left side of the dashboard. So that's basically all that was needed to do this modification today. I did my installation in red, but this is also in blue. I don't have time to remove everything and install the blue ones to show you, but I do have some sample footage of some of the pieces that I installed to show you what blue looks like. So at this point, I think it was a fairly successful modification. It's kind of a brute force method. I definitely would have preferred that the Ocean had color LEDs that you could change in the software, but considering we don't have that, this seems to be the easiest solution that I can think of, and I've been thinking about this for the last few months. So in that case, if you're interested, I have these items in the video description, links for them to purchase on eBay and Amazon. Go for it if you are a little bit on the DIY side. Just be super careful of the light pipes. They are thin plastic and are delicate. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.